Hello everybody, welcome back to Blake's Den. So today I'm working on my 2005 Hyundai Santa Fe 2.7 V6 again. So the reason I'm doing this today is it developed a bit of an intermittent starting problem, which is incredibly hard to capture on video, but hopefully I'll have a clip of it here. So as you can see, it starts, stalls and dies again when it starts up fine next time round normally. So I'm going to chase this through the fuel system, but the first thing I want to do is to replace the fuel filter. Now the fuel filter lives with the fuel pump in the back of the car underneath the seat, so first thing I need to do is take that out. So under the seat base you've got this plastic cover. I've already taken the screws out, so then that comes out and then you can just put that somewhere out the way, and then there is a bit of carpet which lifts up and a bit of sound deadening which also lifts up, and then you got this plate here which is like the access plate to the fuel pump, so you need to undo the 4 screws for that as well. With that plate out the way, it doesn't go out the way very well because it's got a cable going through it. You can actually then see the fuel pump here. So what we need to do is pop off this connector first, which is for the wiring. So that is the 12 volt supply to the fuel pump. I'll be able to get that out the way a bit more. And then we've got the flow and return pipes. So the flow pipe, I've already replaced this previously, as you will have seen in other videos, and then you got the return. I think you got a breather on it as well. So to get to the fuel pump itself, there is a series of screws along the outside. We just need to pop those off and hopefully the assembly will lift out. I think I'm going to pop off these fuel pipes first though, just to make it a bit easier to handle. So I'm just getting the last screw out which holds the pump in place. I'm using a 8mm socket and just on an extension 1/4 inch drive. It was easier than using a screwdriver. So that should be all the bolts or screws out now. So hopefully this will lift out. So I've gone around the edge with a, it's actually a plastic trim removal tool. It's like a plastic crowbar essentially. Loosened it off. So now it should lift out. Now it's not going to come out easy because of all the gubbins which is in the tank below. So let's see if we can prise this out. See, the fuel pipes are in the way there, so I have to push that out the way. There they are. Now this might get a bit messy as it comes out. There we are. One fuel pump removed. So let's take this to the bench and we'll have a look at it. Slid the pre-filter off and the sender unit off it. They're fairly easy to get off. You can see there's quite a lot of debris on this. I think I'll blow that out with an airline first. I don't have a replacement one of those. And then we can see the sort of the pump and the filter assembly integral. So now I've just got to work out how this comes apart. Definitely a big thing to press there to pop it off, so that would slide off that way. Just not sure what happens with these pipes here, whether that comes off with it or not. There's only one way to find out, isn't there? So I managed to break into that. It was fairly easy actually, all the plastic pipes just popped off. So the whole thing came apart really easily. So now what I've got left is I've got the pump and the filter combined. I was overthinking it. All you got to do is push the pump and it comes free. And then just got this wiring connected to undo here. If we can. It's always harder to do things on camera than it is in real life. There we are, fuel pump removed. And the old fuel filter ready to be discarded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean everything up, put some clean gloves on and think about reassembly. So there we are, all back together. Assembly is the reversal of removal. It will only go together one way, so you can't get it wrong. I've also cleaned out that sock the best I can with the airline. So now I'm going to drop this back in the car. Just before I drop the fuel pump assembly back in, that's a view inside the tank. A little bit of rust, but not too bad. I think the petrol looks a bit of an odd colour, but I think it's just a trick of the light. Yeah, doesn't look too bad in there. All back together now. I'm just going to turn the ignition on and off a few times to prime it, and then we'll go for a start. Several days later again, and this job is turning into an absolute nightmare. I cannot get this to run no matter what I do. I've been through the entire fuel system. I've checked out the sensors on the engine, crank sensor, cam sensor, you name it, I've done it. It just won't go. So I've actually reached out for some advice to the Hyundai forum, and somebody said, well, have you tried checking the O-rings in the fuel pump assembly, in the fuel filter? So I'm going to have to take the fuel pump back out again, so yeah, not fun. Might be onto something here. That is one of the O-rings which has come out, and you can clearly see that is deformed and probably not sealing right, so I think I might put it back together and try bench testing it and see what happens. Right, so what we've got here isn't dodgy at all. I've got the fuel pump in a plastic tub, the fuel line on the output, I've got my jumper pack powering the pump. Don't try this at home. I'm in a well ventilated area with a fire extinguisher. If I turn the pump on, you see all that sort of, well, petrol was coming out of that connection there, which is where the pump outlet is. So I think what's happening is the pump it's obviously losing pressure through there. So I just need to get that fixed now. I think I've made a massive schoolboy error. This is the old fuel filter. And can you see there's an O-ring down there? When you compare that to the new fuel filter, there is no O-ring down there when it focuses. So I'm going to put that O-ring in and see what happens. So with that back together again, we'll have a look and turn it on. So we're looking at that one at the back. No leaks. I'm feeling good about this. Right, we're back together for the 4,000th time or something like that. Will it run? Fuel pump priming. Let's give it a bit more of a prime. Ooh. Right, I'm just going to have a look around and check I've got nothing disconnected still. Several weeks later again, and I've got in my hands a genuine Hyundai fuel pressure regulator, all the way from Korea. That's South Korea. Seoul to be precise. There's the part number. Right, I'm going to fit that and hopefully my car will now work. Right, apologies for the bad lighting because it's dark. But the new regulator's in. I've got the vacuum line on. I've primed the fuel system. I've still got a clear plastic line on here to see what's going on. And I'm going to prime it a couple more times and go for a start. Well, I missed the exact moment, but it started. I had to use a bit of my magic starter fluid, which is brake cleaner. It took a few coughs, but it's fired up and it's running, so interesting. Let's see what happens when I... Oh, by the way, I've got the air intake off, so see what happens when I rev it. Oh, come round here. I didn't like that, did it? As you can probably tell, it's daylight now and another day yet again. And a strange thing happened, but I've managed to get this working. So let me show you what I've done. On the old fuel filter, there was a large orange O-ring in there. And then there was a little plastic bracket went on, and I couldn't quite work out what it was. I think it's like an overflow, so if the pressure is too great, the sort of, you know, it sort of spits off like pressure release valve. Anyway, I've replaced that. Obviously somebody on my Hyundai forum told me to make sure I replace the O-rings. I replaced the one which goes in there, that end where the pump goes, so for that bit there. I hadn't done that one. And I put it all in and started joining a bit of pipe together there because I damaged the pipe. And now, as if by magic, ignition on. So it's still a bit wobbly on the starting, but it's working. And more importantly, it revs now. Now I'm not sure what this erratic idling's all about. Could be I've got a bit of an air leak. I haven't quite got a pipe on right still, but you know, it seems to have settled itself down. So could also be bad fuel because it's really low on fuel now. So I think I'm going to call that a win. Now what I need to do is put everything back on which I've taken off, which is probably going to be a half a day's job in itself. Fun stuff. It's the next day, it's all back together, and let's try a cold start and see how it runs. So, got the prime, starts and runs fine. Yep, absolutely fine, fantastic. So there we are, all back together and working now, starting and running fine. So if you go back to the start of this video, I had a problem with it not starting. It would start, cut out again. It doesn't do that anymore. Whether I had to replace all of the things I've had to replace, I'm not sure. I think ultimately the fuel filter was the biggest problem, in particular the O-rings. The fuel pump was looking a bit dodgy. It had a bit of corrosion on it, which you don't really want. So it's got a new fuel pump now. It's also got the new fuel pressure regulator and new fuel line. So I've done a lot of work on this, but this car did lay up for 7 years, not being used, sitting now with fuel in my tank. The fuel system was a concern of mine, but now it's all back together and it's one less thing to worry about. So I hope you found that useful. I hope you don't do the same mistake as I've done and forget about both O-rings. That's very important. But if you've liked the video, please press like, please comment on the video, and please subscribe to my channel. So yeah, thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.